Hi, I'm Franklin Leonard.
I'm Mandy Ginsberg.
My name is Simon Godwin.
I'm Lori Gottlieb.
Hi, I'm JEMELE Hill, and this is The Big Question.
If I could go back in time and change one thing, how much time do you have?
It's very easy to think about what would make the world a better place, but I'm gonna be selfish and think what would make my life, especially as a sports fan, that much more complete. I wish I could go back to the 2002 NBA draft when the Pistons, my hometown Pistons, had the number 3 pick. Oh no, I think they had the number 2 pick. And they could have literally thrown a dart and picked anybody from this draft who would have probably wound up headed to the Hall of Fame. They instead picked the worst player in the draft a year before Detroit actually won the title. They picked Darko Milicic. And if I could go back in history, please God, why didn't you draft Carmelo Anthony? Like, it would have set the franchise up for the next decade or so. But no, they took the one player that you couldn't take. So for me and my sports sanity, I wish I could change that draft for the Pistons because we have never recovered from picking the wrong person.
If I could go back in time and change one thing, I honestly don't know what I would change. I think there are sort of broader philosophical questions that I'm not equipped to answer.
Well, if I could change one thing in time, I'd go back to 2016 and persuade the British public not to vote to leave Europe.
If I could go back in time and change one thing, it would be something personal. It would be to be able to spend more time with my mom, who passed away of cancer.
If I could go back in time and change just one thing, it would be for all the enslaved people who helped build this country, build homes, build the Capitol, get paid minimum wage for the work they did. Think about where we'd be now.
I'd like to see what the world would have been like had Lee Harvey Oswald not gotten a job at the book depository in Dealey Plaza. I'd like to see how our society would have moved forward. I'm a big student of what happened when we placed a man on the moon and how President Kennedy's words motivated our country and both private and public enterprises to put a man on the moon, and wanted to do it in a decade. We did it in 8 years, and that one endeavor is probably the greatest feat that our country has ever accomplished, and it's a shame that he never lived to see that, and always wondered what other great big goals we could have accomplished as a country had he lived.
I would have Martin Luther King not be assassinated in 1968 because there's a part of me that's very concerned with race issues and how we discuss them and how that changes over time. And I think that if he had had the probably 40 more years that were remaining to him, I think that the race debate in the United States would be significantly different because he left a gaping hole in the way race was discussed before he was killed.
I think I would change where the major classical pre-colonial African empires existed in the 1300s and 1400s, and so they tended to be inland, which allowed for what would become European slave traders to be able to sort of land on the coast and start making inroads. And if those empires were essentially on the coast and would have had the same military and political and economic power as these European slave traders, then what we now know as the transatlantic slave trade and thereby colonialism and thereby slavery may have never happened.
If I could go back in time and change one thing, I would not change anything. I may have watched Butterfly Effect and Back to the Future too many times, but I do feel like everything happens for a reason. We need to be adaptive to the circumstances that we're in and figure out how we can push forward and focus on changing the future.